Hello, this is my response for the Reading Art as Experience by John Dewey, as well as the interview with Jorge Rojas. I really enjoyed the ideas presented this week very, very much, and I will apply it to me personally after I explain my response. So I appreciated the theme basically in John Dewey's book that correlates with the title about how art is an experience, an experiential thing, that we find aesthetic through experience and through creation, and that it is a community-based thing. And with all of the chapters read, having experiences as well as expression, I found really interesting. And I also thought it was interesting in the final chapter of chapter 14 that there really is a correlation, I feel, that he makes to art and empathy. He uses the word imagination, but I really feel like that imagination is the chief instrument of the good. It is more or less a commonplace to say that a person's idea and treatment of his fellows are dependent upon his power to put himself imaginatively in their place. So I feel like that this really correlates with and intertwines with Jorge Rojas's idea of art. When you were interviewing him, I was so fascinated. I mean, like at the edge of my seat. I really loved how he said that when he was creating these visual artworks, he decided that they needed to be touched, felt, and heard, and that's how he kind of transitioned into performance art. As a theater artist, I too feel like that, like visual art, theater has been placed on this pedestal of like read a script, do what's been written, and that it gets precariously distant from the audience it is meant to be, and that my students feel daunted, or it's a daunting feeling because they're like, oh, I have to memorize and I have to do all of these things, when really theater is experiential. And when I get them playing and then I'm like, hey, you just performed, and they're like, what? And I'm trying to morph my classroom more a lot along the lines of Jorge Rojas, and I feel like I'm kind of alone in this pattern right now. As a theater teacher, instead of just handing scripts or doing big musicals. Not that those things aren't awesome, but I'm really finding myself trying to transition so that the children can, or my students, they're not children, they're people, can really utilize the art of expression theatrically and play around with their identities and be a vehicle for social change in the theater classroom. So I really appreciated how really life is art. And I truly believe that. And I truly want my students to feel that way. I started doing this this week, which is so interesting, as I was reading these things, a devised unit in my intermediate theater class about identity. And it ended up being this beautiful moment where students unexpectedly got raw as they were just doing these identifier words and playing around with shapes and partnerships, and watching how their identities were shifting in performance because they were being influenced by peers' identities, and how innately everyone was expressing kindness and interaction. And all of a sudden, the students were like, oh, theater is powerful. Theater can show that we at Granger High School are empathic and kind, and we want to see past color and background. And so I really appreciated that. I appreciated in Jorge Rojas's interview that he talked about art being a bringing together of people, and that really that is the most beautiful thing, is that when we have a love for humanity and we bring together people, we can help facilitate change. Not come and be the savior, as mentioned, but be part of that process, because we believe that humanity in itself is artistically wonderful to look at and be a part of. This changes my practice as a theater teacher because it gives me other areas to focus on theatrically. It helps me look for other vehicles of creation with the tools of theatrical pedagogy to help my students be the creators and facilitators for change, utilizing theatrical principles of shape, story progression, that kind of thing. And so I feel like both with John Dewey's words of experiential art, as well as Jorge Rojas, that I can make a different change in my classroom. Another thing that was really interesting for me was the East High portraits. I really want to do something similar-ish at Granger because I don't think we are seen for more than just that gang school in West Valley. In fact, I've been taking daily screenshots of West Valley news for almost a year to see if we can't do something in my classroom performance art based with this idea of what West Valley is perceived as and what that West Valley is for the residents of Granger and in that community, my community. So I think that is a really interesting, essentially what I'm trying to articulate in my excited words is that this week's reading and video were so applicable to what I want to do as a theater teacher in my community, that my students' voices is worth creating experiential theater around, that their voices are so powerful and it's daunting. Like, I loved how Jorge Rojas talked about how daunting and scary it is because you don't always know what the outcome is. And as educators, sometimes I always want to know what the outcome is, and I have to be more comfortable with sharing the outcome probabilities with my students because their voices matter. So basically, I have a fire in my heart for really creating amazing things thematically with my students based on the reading and video this week. I'm sad I didn't make the class discussion, but I'm really excited to hear your thoughts on my remarks because I just want to sit and talk to you for hours about different ideas or platforms to assist my students in creating differently than has been created in a theater classroom before. So thank you.